Certain diseases are also often linked to poverty, including AIDS, tuberculosis, acute childhood illnesses, and malaria. This is due to poor sanitary conditions or poor living conditions and inability to afford early detection and vaccination.
Households may encounter problems due to poverty. Financial insecurity may cause members of households to move back and forth in search of work repeatedly, sometimes over long distances, causing household composition to fluctuate markedly. Unemployment and insecurity has also affected young people's ability to form households or make any kind of long-term plans. Illness, death, and quarrels amongst and within family may also result from poverty.
Children and youth also suffer the impacts of poverty. Children may be divided and distributed among different households. Children are very badly affected by malnutrition, and it has its most severe effect on children between the ages of 6 months and 2 years. Parents who are affected by severe illness may have trouble caring for their children.
Children may lack the guidance and care required, as some parents take up multiple livelihoods to sustain the family. Urban youth in poverty are also very vulnerable to getting involved in crime, gangs, and drug or alcohol abuse.
Education is also affected. Poverty limits the access children have to educational opportunities, especially early childhood development. Many have to drop out of school prior to completing the matrix. This results in an unending cycle of poverty where the poor stays poor or gets poorer.
And now, let's look at some measures that are being taken to combat the poverty in South Africa. Firstly, Jacob Zuma government created the Department for Women, Children, and People with Disability, which was established to empower and ensure social justice and development for women, particularly the rural poor. This was to ensure that they had access to basic necessities in their communities, regardless of class and status.
Next, the government presented a new mandate to include sanitation as a necessary condition for human settlement, and emphasized that housing is not just about physical structures, but should encompass other aspects aimed to ensure the overall individual well-being. Improvements in South Africa have various origins, such as government expenditure on redistribution of income in the market, creation of the Child Support Grant and extending the eligibility for the grant, improved access to services from basic welfare to electricity, which modernizes and generates income in entire areas.
In order to solve the problem of rising unemployment and declining social security and develop South Africa's social capital, measures taken include
1. The introduction of South Africa's Basic Income Grant, which has been promoted since 2001 as a very inexpensive and easily implementable policy. It is low cost because the country is big enough to sustain this kind of grant through its middle class. Also, inequalities are so massive that for the poor, the smallest amount of money would be enough to lift them out of destitution or at least dramatically reduce the effects of poverty. Legal reforms are also utilized to reduce poverty in South Africa.
When South Africa became part of the group of democratic nations, it had to adopt the system of the rule of law and fair justice, guaranteeing political and civil rights. Hence, a greater variety of interests and concerns of the population can be taken into account by the ruling class.
Poverty reduction is also done through democratic capitalism, which better redistributes South Africa's wealth. This enables the country to
resist exploitation and forms of modern slavery,
provide the means for the poor to organize themselves politically,
denounce unjust treatments, working and living conditions.
Thank you. That concludes our video on poverty.
Created using Powtoon.